Let's talk about a huge transformation that's just around the corner for cloud strategy. As businesses are scrambling to plug AI into, well, everything, the very foundation of their cloud environments has to change. So, what does that blueprint for 2026 actually look like?
Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to unpack the messy complexity that's really forcing this whole change. Then, we'll get into the AI-powered solution and the three big pivots you have to know: building with code, automating security, and finally, getting your costs and teams on the same page. And we'll wrap it all up by asking that one big question: are you actually ready for what's coming?
So, let's start with the why. Why is this massive shift happening right this second? Well, the truth is, for a lot of companies, the cloud was supposed to be simple, right? But what they got instead was this tangled maze of new challenges.
Does this sound familiar to you? Costs that just spiral out of control, security holes that keep you up at night, and workflows that are so disconnected your teams can hardly even talk to each other? Look, this isn't some hypothetical problem. This is the day-to-day reality for so many businesses out there.
And you know what? A huge piece of this puzzle is, well, it's a people problem. A staggering 73% of businesses admit their engineering and security teams are basically working in different universes. And when the folks building your cloud and the folks securing it aren't talking, that maze just gets more and more complicated.
So, how do you find your way out of this maze? Well, the answer isn't just to throw more people or more tools at it. No, it's about a fundamental change in your strategy, one that marks a real turning point: embracing AI-driven automation.
And this really shows the two paths you can take. On one side, you've got the stragglers. They're just bogged down by all these manual, disconnected ways of doing things. But on the other side, you've got the transformers, and they are hitting the gas, using AI-driven automation to get more speed and more control over literally everything.
And this is exactly why it's so important. We're way past just talking about IT efficiency. A strong, secure, automated foundation, that is now a core competitive advantage. In a world being reshaped by AI, this is really about survival and leadership.
So let's get into the first of these three big pivots. This one is all about changing how you build, moving away from all those manual, one-off setups to standardized, automated blueprints that are actually made of code.
The key idea here is something called infrastructure as code, or IAC. Think of it like creating one single, repeatable blueprint for your entire environment. This is absolutely essential because without it, AI is basically flying blind. It's the bedrock for every bit of automation you're going to build.
And here's what that actually looks like day to day. With infrastructure as code, your developers don't have to file tickets and wait around anymore. They can just go to a self-service portal, pick a pre-approved, secure template, and get right to work. This frees them up to focus on what they're best at: building cool new things.
Now, if you look at the data, about 56% of infrastructure is already automated today. And hey, that's a pretty good start. But look at that other 44%. As AI starts to take off, closing that gap is a massive opportunity for companies to get faster, more secure, and way more efficient. All right, let's move on to our next pivot: security. This new blueprint completely changes the game here. We're moving away from slow, manual checks and risky static passwords towards something much more automated and, well, alive.
This is a really critical step forward for security. For years, we've been using static secrets, passwords and API keys that never change. They're a huge liability, like leaving the key under the doormat. The future is dynamic, short-lived credentials that are automatically created and rotated, which dramatically shrinks the space where attackers can get in.
The other half of this is policy as code. So instead of having a slow, manual security review at the end of the line, this builds automated, security-approved checks right into the very beginning of the process. It turns security from a bottleneck into a set of automatic guardrails, which saves tons of time and stops problems before they even happen.
Okay, on to our final strategic pivot. After changing how you build and how you secure your systems, it's time to change how you manage the whole shebang. This is all about breaking down those silos to bring your costs and your teams together.
Let's start with the pain. For 42% of companies, just managing their cloud costs is their single biggest challenge. Monthly bills are a total guessing game, and going over budget is pretty much expected. You can't control what you can't see, right? So the solution is to move toward a unified platform. This creates that single source of truth that gives everyone, from finance to engineering to security, a real-time look at what's going on. And when everybody's looking at the same data, collaboration just kind of happens naturally.
And the results are crystal clear. The data shows that companies who take this unified approach see real benefits. 51% report better collaboration and visibility, and 48% are able to deploy their applications faster. This is how you turn disconnected teams into teams that are proactive and innovative.
So, after walking through these big shifts in building, securing, and managing the cloud, we're left with the most important question of all. What does this all mean for you and your company?
This right here is the destination. This is the future that this blueprint makes possible. Faster innovation because your developers aren't held back. Reduced risk because security is automated and built in from the start. Optimized spending because you finally have real-time visibility. And in the end, you get proactive, aligned teams that are all focused on moving the business forward.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. All the pieces of the 2026 blueprint, they're here today. AI-driven automation, infrastructure as code, unified platforms. The question isn't what to do anymore, it's when. So are you actively building for this future, or are you running the risk of being left behind?